For coverage without interruption, cellular is the go-to wireless technology. While cellular has been around for quite some time, only recently with the rise of the smartphone and LTE, aka 4G, has it truly begun to reach reasonable network speeds. Let's begin by exploring cellular, looking at the bigger picture of how my data gets from my smartphone across an LTE cellular network to the larger internet. We first start off with our mobile device. For most people, this mobile device is a smartphone. In cellular parlance, we call our mobile device or mobile terminal a user element, or UE, aka something that the user brings onto the network. A high-end smartphone might cost on the order of $700, even up to $1,000 or more. In the US, such costs are often subsidized and spread across multi-year contracts. Outside the US, it tends to be much more common for an individual to purchase the cell phone and then purchase service as needed. Service for nearly all 4G capable smartphones are tied to what we call a SIM card, or a subscriber identification module. This small chip helps identify your phone to the overall network using a blend of a serial number called the ICC ID, the International Mobile Subscriber Identity, IMSI, and various other security features. A PIN, or personal identification number, and a PUC, or personal unblocking code, are also embedded in the SIM card. If your phone is unlocked, one can just swap out the SIM card to use a new carrier without changing the phone. Rock on, international travel. Okay, so now our smartphone is authorized, but what does the cellular network actually look like? For Wi-Fi, we had an access point. For cellular, we have the antennas providing service, typically located up on a tower or base station. As we are trying to provide seamless coverage, whereby cellular is available everywhere, placing our gear up on the tower allows our service to potentially cover miles rather than just hundreds of feet as we have with Wi-Fi. The name cellular actually comes from the original concept by V.H. McDonald in 1979, whereby he proposed the notion of a cellular layout whereby the transmitters, aka the base stations of today, were organized as cells, the biological kind, barely touching one another to allow for efficient spectrum reuse. The reality is a little bit more complicated, because one of the challenges of providing coverage everywhere is that no single base station can provide it. Hence, our users are going to roam. As such, every cell has a little bit of overlap with neighboring cells to allow you to detect the new base station and complete a handoff to the new cell tower before you lose coverage from the old one. For city driving, this is not too bad. For driving on faster roads, something like the interstate, this of course is a little bit more challenging. Sometimes it works, sometimes not so much. Take heart though, most carriers actually measure those specific details. The call drop rate is a fairly easy metric to capture and can be what we call a key performance indicator, or KPI. Measuring quality on data though is a bit more complicated, and the current buzzword is something called QoE, or quality of experience, aka how happy are the users with their connection, or alternatively, are they unhappy enough to get out the torches and pitchforks? The actual hardware that provides service at the base station under LTE is called an eNode B, as opposed to 3G service where it was just called a Node B. The Node B is a bit easier term to remember than a BTS, or base transceiver station. Well, sort of. Our eNode B actually provides the last mile of service to one or even multiple cells. We might place them along the highway, or perhaps even take an existing cell and split it up into multiple sectors in order to improve coverage and capacity. Now there's one more component that comes into the mix with LTE as well. While the eNode B gets my traffic from my UE or my smartphone across wireless to the wired side, my actual data does not connect directly to the internet until it leaves what's called the Enhanced Packet Core, or EPC. This EPC allows for quite a few nifty services and opportunities for a carrier to cover up several of the nits of wireless. 3G does not do quite as good of a job on this, and it makes it much less predictable than LTE. Speaking of which, probably the most important aspect of cellular is that cellular operates in the licensed bands, whereas a technology like Wi-Fi works in unlicensed bands where nobody owns the spectrum. Cellular has been designed to work with ownership from the get-go. What that means is that we can have a bit more predictability to our network access, and we know much better how all of our devices are going to behave. For services such as voice and real-time data, these qualities are positively essential.